I don't know what's going on. It's not going live. I might have to refresh it.
Oh.
Hi, it's Joy Foster, founder of Tech Pixies and the host of the Sparkle and Thrive podcast. And we have a really exciting podcast for you. So we're doing a little bit of a mini series. Last week, I interviewed Fern Fuller, who is a Tech Pixie who's done the social media training. And then she went on to do DreamBuilder. And then she went on to do our mastermind. And now she's got this really successful business. She's been able to pay back all of her pension fund that she lost overnight. She's a single mom. She's successful. It's an amazing story. And I needed to follow it up with another amazing story. And I was driving in my car. I'd gone to go get dog food. And I got back in the car. And just before, I got going, as you do, you check your messages. And I had the most beautiful voice message from Benita, and it just made me cry. I had to call her immediately, and I had to say, Benita, oh my gosh, I just have to talk to you about this. Tell me more. So Benita has done our social media training, and she's also done our DreamBuilder training.
Yeah.
And she has an amazing story to tell, and really, there's so much I want to unpack in the story. But let's just start by saying thank you, Benita, for coming onto the podcast. Now, this isn't your first time. This is actually your second time on the podcast. You had done the DreamBuilder program and you loved it so much that we invited you to come on the podcast and talk about it. And you said it was a life-changing program for you. And you had no idea what was coming. No idea.
Not at all. No. Shall I start?
Yes, tell us.
I just assumed that what I needed was to come up with an idea of my own business. And I kind of did, but come up with an idea of my own business in order to right all the wrongs that were going in my life. I found it hard. I mean, I love the DreamBuilder because it just gave me the tools to reframe things and just keep being positive and not get deflated all the time. I mean, you get deflated for a moment, but you remember your tool and you bring yourself back up and you're in that right energy level to, the different mental state to sort out the problem rather than the mental state that created the problem. So I loved that. And I think what happened, I thought about interior design and I signed up for a course. I love renovating homes. And I thought, well, I'm good at that. I could do that. It's quite different being good at something and actually turning it into a business. Or it is to live off the proceeds, profitably, and I needed to find money to live. I'm divorced. I have 2 sons and one of them is about to reach 18, and that means no more child support. So all my bills and so on will be down to me, as well as still providing a family home for my boys. So there was a bit of pressure there that was making me feel very uncomfortable. And for all those years while I've been a stay-at-home mum, I've thought the logistics of it all, it's impossible. How can I, my husband was always away. And then when he left, it was just me. How was I going to do the school drop-offs? How was I going to do holidays? To the point that I just thought I can't do anything. And just something post-DreamBuilders, it was, you have to think, so what can I do about this? What can I lean into to make this better? And I don't need to know the how, just, what can I lean into to make this better? And I just thought, well, I've been volunteering NHS. I have a kind of healthcare background. And I've been volunteering during COVID, and that had been wonderful for me as a single person because, I'd had my connection all during that time that was incredibly lonely. And insular, and I maintained that. And funnily enough, that's where I got my professional references. From volunteering there, I got to know the organisation really well. I understood, the core values of dignity, compassion. I've forgotten them now, but they are in my head. So I really understood the organisation. So when I went onto the Apply Scotland Jobs website. One of the first jobs I saw, I thought, I can do that. And the great thing about the NHS jobs is that there are a lot of them. And I know down in England, perhaps there's a lot of negativity, but it hasn't quite reached Scotland yet. So there's a lot of jobs, so they are available. But this particular one, where they really wanted somebody with strong empathy and compassion, and I thought, and you got a bit of an education as well, background, but no experience in the actual department that I would be in. I thought, I can do that. And that's got a salary. And that's what I need. I need a job with money outside the family life. And all the elements that stopped me in the past, well, they've got to change, because I need to change. I need a difference in my life. I need to earn money. And so although these things prevented me in the past, they're still there, but they're going to have, maybe it's not for me to sort them all out. Maybe my focus was to find the job, apply for it, get an interview, and then get a job offer. It's just amazing. It really is. And I've heard from them today. I start next Tuesday, subject to all the checks that they have to do. But I can't wait. I'm going to be part of a team. I don't have to buy any work clothes because I'm going to have scrubs. All those things in the past where I thought, oh God, I haven't got any money to buy work clothes. I don't need to. And so it has all fallen into place. And it's not a glamorous job, which I thought, oh, I really would like to have something a bit glamorous. But I know that even if I have a bad day for the role that I'll have, which is in the diagnostics team, working in a multidisciplinary team, but mainly with the nursing and the radiographic department, for all people going through, and I've been through it, so I have empathy, going through a cancer diagnosis and all the different screening checks that they do. And you can feel quite isolated. I think people are busy, and I think they're introducing assistants rather than trying to recruit more nurses or more doctors. They're introducing a different level of staff who actually assist with all the things, as opposed to making a diagnosis, and just explain what is happening, ask them how they're feeling, and just make the experience so much better. Can't change the outcome, but you can make the experience so much better. And I can do that. And I can't wait to start. There will be challenges, but at the end of the month, I'll get a paycheck. And so I'm just...
So, Benita, just for some perspective for people.
Yes, sorry.
So when was the last time you had a paycheck, a salary job position?
A salary job, 21 years ago. 21 years ago. And that's a long time. And all sorts of false things conjure up in your mind as to what's happened in the workplace during that time. I mean, one of them we see was, social media. I have no idea. Social media was never available or around when I was working last. And I just thought, that puts me out of the job market. How can I get back? Constantly looking for evidence of how I couldn't get back, and that's where Tech Pixies, you see, that took away that fear, that actually social media is not an essential thing to do a job, but it is a really useful tool, in a job. Or if you are a social media manager, then of course it's essential.
And
but
when you signed up for the social media course, you were exploring that as a potential career option.
Yeah.
And as you leaned into social media, you thought, okay, actually, I really like interior design. So you started an account around interior design and clearing space. Yeah. So and now we talked about that a little bit on the last podcast, how you sort of were exploring that space with using social media. And you knew that if you wanted to launch a business in that area, that you would need social media skills to do that. So you leaned into that. And then actually one of the interesting parts about DreamBuilder is you get a vision or a dream for your life, sort of comes to you, and then you decide, okay, is this worthy of my time, energy, effort, and money? And then you take steps towards it. So one of the things you did was you said, okay, I'm going to take steps towards this, making this more professional and going down that road. And actually it was interesting because one of the conversations we had was around, well, actually what I want to do has changed. And there was a certain almost like guilt or connection to, well, what about that thing that I set out to start out to do that I'm now no longer doing? Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Because I think it's important where we got to on that.
That was difficult for me because I had signed up for an interior design course, and I signed up at a time before it became really expensive. So there was a sense of urgency to get signed up. And my mum and dad, very sweetly, it wasn't too expensive, but they gave me the money. So, that there was pressure there to continue with it because I didn't want to let them down. And I spoke to somebody very, very wise, you, and just said, I feel a certain amount of shame that I'm not completing these things as I intended. It almost feels that I'm being a bit fake, that, I was so dead set on that. And actually learning to, and it's, I'm quoting Frozen, learning to let go and actually, just say it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who is being actually let down. If you've recalibrated or changed path, who is being let down? And the only person being let down is the pressure you put on yourself. And you don't have to do that. So you can move forward. And knowing that, with the course, well, with Tech Pixies and the CPD, I know how to put that together. And so when it's perhaps more relevant for me, actually, it's really essential in what I'm doing, I'll pull on that, I'll draw on that, I'll do that. And the interior design course, I remember you said to me, well, you own the content, you can, and you've got time if you want to, if it's going to make sense later. But there's something about now which is just over there. It's with the new job you've got, and that's what you focus on. That's what's going to provide you with, the things that you need. And those needs are not just finances, it's being in a team, it's being out of the house, all these things which were associated with guilt. How guilty. I've got a lovely house that I put together and I want to get out of it. I've got 2 great children, but I want to get away from them. It's so much guilt, and just shifting that aside and just sort of saying it doesn't matter has been a huge burden removed. And yeah.
One thing we talked about, which I think is really important for people who are listening to this, I've worked with a lot of women who want to, one of their ideas that comes to them is, I want to start a business doing this thing that I love, painting, poetry, art, singing, whatever it is. And then when they start to actually do the work and, or, it doesn't sort of work out the way they want it to work out, they sort of get exactly what you're saying. They have this little tiny bit of guilt around, actually, if I go get a paid job and I leave that behind, what am I doing there? But one of the things that we've talked about, you and I have talked about, and I think it's important for people to hear who are listening to this, is that when we do have paid employment, we need creative outlets. We need a way to balance, you're going into really wonderful work, but it's also very intense work. And it's, you're working with people who have acute diagnosis of cancer. And as you said, you've been there yourself, what it feels like to be in the other side. And, but you are going to be doing that on a daily basis, serving and taking care of people who are getting those diagnoses. You need a creative outlet. So one of the things we talked about was, how do we then use that creative outlet as a way to balance the things we're experiencing at work. And one of my mentors said that money is good for 2 things. It's there to help you be comfortable enough to be creative enough to give your gift to the world. And what's beautiful is this job actually does touch in on all of your values, and it allows you to give your gift to the world in that sense. But then equally, when you've got a salary, you've got your bills paid, that you're doing something meaningful with the work that you're doing, you then have this creative outlet that you can tap into to then get a break from the work that you're actually going to be doing, which is going to be really amazing work, but also quite intense. So there's a beautiful synergy here, and you never know what's going to happen down the road. You've now got all of these different skill sets, all of these different tools that add up. And I just, like, the last time we spoke, you never could have predicted that this is what would be going on in your life. And just like, when we do a third call, I'm sure we're going to find out even more and discover even more that's happened for you. But what I love about this is that you had all the tools to help you stay positive and stay focused and figure out what you were going to do next. And I think it's important to recognize that, this is someone who's come through the other side of a lot of these challenges, but you have faced challenges. You've faced divorce, you've faced being a single mom, you've faced a cancer diagnosis. I mean, when you came into Tech Pixies, there was a lot stacked up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't I didn't want to crumble. I wanted to, it's not what I wanted. I wanted to have some positivity. And I didn't, I don't mean sort of like, oh, well, always look on the bright side. Didn't mean like that, but just sort of to not always be faced every day with, oh gosh, look, I've got cancer, and oh, I'm single and I'm divorced, and nobody wants me. I didn't want to be waking up every morning feeling like that. So I wanted something different, because it is, I do wake up now, and even though there are some things that I think, oh, it's still the same, I do think that, oh, it's another day to try and do something different. And that's a nice way to wake up. It really is. I've really learned in that sort of short space of time that, it isn't perfect, and but it's good, and I've if you just get out there, if you just try things, and not analyze it too much, and just try, that's, put your toe in the water, and so on, and connect, just connecting with people. There are moments where in the past, I'd think when I was feeling low that I would just hide because I didn't want to present myself like that. But actually, when you connect with other people, you become more positive anyway. It doesn't have to be, well, if you want to hear yourself talking about doom and gloom, well, then you're not only hearing it, but other people are as well. But sometimes, being out with other people, you just lift yourself, and you explore different things. So I never thought all those things would happen, and that I would, rise above it, and get a job. I mean, the sense of rejection in my sort of life was huge. And so I suppose that probably prevented me from putting out lots and lots of applications, because of, I might get rejected. But if something feels right and you go for it, you can feel positive and feel that's a good fit. And it did feel like a good fit. And the interview was lovely, and the people were great. And nothing fazed me. And so I thought, I've got a really good chance here. And it happened. So, yeah, I'm waffling.
Well, no, you're not waffling. I have to tell you, that message just completely made my day, listening to that message.
Oh.
Let's talk about some of the tools that helped shift this perspective. Obviously, you had the Tech Pixies program. We have the life coaching in there. And in Dream Builder, we go much deeper. So we talk about getting a sense of deserving, really believing that you deserve what you want to build in your life. We talk about mindset of abundance, going away from looking at the lack in your life and starting to look at all of the amazing things that actually are in your life. We talk about the fact that you can't breathe yourself, you can't beat your own heartbeat. We talk about waking up with gratitude, and that gratitude is the language of abundance, that we're connected to that spiritual side of us through gratitude. And, if anyone doesn't believe that we're connected to better things in life through gratitude, just imagine, if when someone's not been grateful to you for something you've done for them, are you willing to continue to work with them? You're just not. So it's one of those things where as we learn the language of gratitude, we learn the language of abundance. But we also talk about forgiveness. We do 2 whole sessions on forgiveness, and that's a big one for a lot of people to even get through those 2 weeks. And so it's really about getting an idea of the dream, taking action steps towards that dream, but becoming emotionally connected to it, and really believing it's possible for you. And then when you are at that place where you believe it's possible, you believe that it's worth your time, energy, effort, and money, and you're taking steps towards it, everything starts to align, and we remove blocks and barriers that are in the way, that might come with forgiveness or lack thinking, etc. So all those tools, there's about 12 to 15 tools in there that we give you. What are 2 or 3 of the really big tools you took away from Dream Builder that really helped you to get into a place where this felt 100% like the right thing for you?
Forgiveness. Forgiveness was huge. Learning to unchain yourself from a bad line of resentment was huge. And the ability, and I think this is all with forgiveness as well, the ability to experience the situation, but look at it and reframe it has been huge as well. So then you don't keep personalizing it. So and it doesn't become, oh, that's connected with me, that always happens with me, because you won't move forward, you won't find an alternative, or you won't overcome that challenge. So the forgiveness thing, and it is spiritual and it's lovely and it is religious, or however you want it to be, but it's so important. Even if somebody has been unpleasant, like I had a few 21 years ago, my longer than that, 23 years ago, there was a job I was in and I moved office, and the two women were very, very toxic and prevented me from having contact with clients. And I was good with clients, and I went away with that. I resigned from that job and got another one, but I came away feeling inadequate, and I still had that chain of resentment, which still linked me. And when I was able to, through the Dream Builders, I was able to, and that's going back 22 years, that I probably would never have admitted to myself, or wasn't really conscious that existed. But the Dream Builder made me realize, gosh, that does exist, and that needs to be cut in order to move forward. So forgiveness is massive. And even when somebody's been unpleasant at work, not personalizing it and thinking it's because of something you've done, but just thinking, oh gosh, there must be something pretty bad going on in their lives for them to choose to react like that. And what can you do to pacify the situation and walk away, because you don't want to continually be the target. So that's been a great thing. So Dreambuilder, even if there was just one, I think forgiveness is the huge thing. And as you say, there's a lot of stuff that people have buried, and hence that 2 weeks can be quite tough and digging deep. But boy, it's worth it. If you want to move on, it really is worth it. And then with the other one, I just loved that course. I really did. And I've still got it. I've still got the content. Yeah. So, if anyone's thinking of doing it, it's not just 12 weeks. And then you're done. You're off. You're on your own. It's, it's there for you to sort of dip into all the time. It was such a valuable investment for me, and I really loved it. Really, really loved it. I can't think of the other ones.
But forgiveness is huge. And I think people, in fact, I had someone once who was thinking about doing Dream Builder. And when we were talking about what was in the content, that we did these 2 weeks on forgiveness, they were like, oh, I'm good on that. I've done all. And I thought, oh boy, that's the sign you should be doing it, right? One of the lessons about forgiveness is that it's never ending. Like, you just forgive and you forgive and you forgive and you forgive. And, it's not like suddenly, you're done forgiving. It's sort of like you're never done breathing. You're never done forgiving. It's,
Absolutely. And forgiving isn't meaning, all right, I take it, walk all over me. It doesn't mean that at all. It just means, and some of the things we learned, wasn't it, the Greek for decide means to separate, that to make a decision to separate yourself. So, I learned that forgiveness does not mean, okay, whatever, yeah, that's fine, you can behave like that, walk all over me. It doesn't. It just means that you don't have to be linked to something that's bad anymore. If it wasn't from, you recognize a difficult situation, but each person has to own 100% of their reaction. It's not, one person owns 100%, so the other one is blame free. Whether it's a relationship that just comes to an end, or a work relationship that comes to an end, you're probably going to come into contact with those people in the future, even with a work colleague as well. So if it's possible to forgive and to move forward in a way that you can leave it with a positive experience, if you were to meet them again or work with them again, it's not like, disaster coming back. It's, it's you feel lighter. So,
I love what you just said about the Latin root of the word decidere. So the Latin root of the word decide is decidere, which means to cut away, right? And that's what you're talking about. And so when you decide to forgive someone, you are cutting, and that's what you keep talking about, like cutting the chain. You're cutting away from the link that's connected to you. And what we talk about in Dream Builder is where there is a jail and someone is being jailed, there is a jailer. So if you're keeping someone, if you're holding on to that resentment, it's hurting you
Yeah.
and probably often more than it's hurting the person that's being jailed, right? Because
Yeah.
they either know and don't care, or they know and they haven't apologized or whatever, because if they had, maybe you wouldn't be holding them in jail, right?
Yeah.
But it's this concept that actually, if I want to free my mental energy up to think about something else, because when you hold on to resentment, what happens is it never leaves you. It's always there. And like you said, applying for a job, it's that fear of rejection. So then you don't apply at all because you don't want to get rejected, because there's a part of your story that says I always get rejected, or there's a part of your story that says that I never get the client facing job. So it's, and then you get to that point where you just believe it's true, because you say, I always get rejected. And that's one thing we talk about a lot in Tech Pixies, but also in DreamBuilder, is the I am statements that we say about ourselves. And when we talk about brain priming and crafting a new way of thinking about ourselves, and, really creating an empowering statement about who you are, so that you can put yourself forward for an application, and you can walk confidently into the interview, and you can walk confidently into the job and know that you have a gift to give to the world. So yeah, I love that so much. I love how you combined the act of making a decision, which is one of the very first steps in DreamBuilder, that you're going to decide for this new life, which means you have to cut away from parts of the old life, right? And sometimes when you decide to forgive someone, that does mean that they're not part of your life anymore. But that doesn't mean that that you didn't learn something from that experience, that you can't take something away and become, have a different level of compassion or empathy. And I think it's so true that people are, hurt people hurt people. So as we look at people that we have a lot of resentment for, or where we've had a conflict with someone, if we can really step away from it for a second and say, number one, why am I, what does it say about me, the way that I'm reacting to this? What am I thinking about myself? But the other thing too is, what's going on in that person's life? I love how you said that, because it's so true that some, the way someone treats you is a reflection very often of what's going on for them, and not what's actually going on with you. Now, the way you react to them has a lot about the way that's going on with you, how you feel about yourself, and I just read the book, The Light We Carry, by Michelle Obama, and she talks about her dad, and her dad said, no one can make you feel bad if you feel good inside. And I really love that sentence. And I've said that to my kids a couple times since I've read the book. Just this concept that if we feel good about ourselves on the inside, then we have a much stronger ability to carry on when we get knocked down by other people, because we know who we are. But if we don't know who we are, and if that's not really solid in terms of what our values are, or who we believe we are, what our self-image is, it can get rattled and knocked by the people around us when they say one thing that can really throw us off. So that's really interesting that forgiveness was such a big one for you. But also,
I think also just not relying on evidence all the time. Just proof of. Part of my drive for the interior design was, what proof have I got of something I'm good at? And actually just being who you are, having some good core values are important, crafting those. And the other thing in DreamBuilder is it says, there are 5 questions, aren't there? And the final question is it, I don't know whether it's the final one, but is this going to be good, not just for me, but also to the world, that kind of thing. And I think if your core values are based around that, that it's not just, it's altruism, isn't it? It's not just self-attitude, about me. It's about what, by being myself, how can that sort of help what's around me? And I think not looking for evidence, because I learned the thing with the brain, that the brain will look for evidence. If you have a feeling, oh, I'm not very good at this, the brain will look for evidence to prove that. And so, just not looking for proof of what you're good at, just or looking for evidence of what you're good at. Just being, just simply being and doing and being active. That's a big thing as well. Yeah, and why not? Why shouldn't I have a job? 22 years, 21 years not working, why not? Whereas before I'd be thinking, oh my gosh, why? How? I'm unemployable. But just when you flip it and you just say, well, why not? Why shouldn't I be happy? Or why shouldn't I enjoy that? Or, just, and no evidence. It's just that it's there's no answer required. Why not? Just off you go. Why not? So that was a big thing too. Not looking for proof all the time, and who are you trying to prove it to? Sometimes you feel that you're trying to prove it to other people of your worth. And that just means, as you say, you're just going to get knocked again because you're looking for affirmation from other people, aren't you? Rather than having that lovely sense of, or a sense that you can always return to inside yourself, which is a sense of calm, and that I know who I am, and that's good enough. That was a lovely, lovely thing. I mean, I make it sound so fluffy, but it's far more meaningful than that. The dream builder, that feeling that I am enough, and why not? I can do this.
I love this. Elizabeth, who's listening right now, she says, I love this. Why not? And actually, Benita, that reminds me of a conversation I had with someone years ago, actually, because I was thinking about joining his company. And he looked at me and he said, and I said that I believe that Tech Pixies could turn over $500,000 a year. And that was what I thought we could do at the time. And anyway, and he said, why do you want to do that? And I remember him saying that to me. Why do you want to do that? And I was like, and I literally looked at him and said, why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Why not? Who says a woman's business can't turn over $500,000 or $1 million or whatever it is that you want to turn it over? Like, and I love there's a playfulness in that, in that why not? Because actually, as soon as we say why not, we sort of take off the limitations that we're putting on ourselves. And it's really interesting because I ran for a really long time. I've run multiple marathons, and I've done the Ironman Wales, and I didn't get to do the running part on that, but I trained for the running part. I just was 53 seconds late in those cycles, so they wouldn't let me do the run. But I've been sporty all my life, and at a pretty high level. Interestingly enough, I've had this knee problem since about October 2021 when I was training for the London Marathon. And I just didn't go get it diagnosed. I just knew I had a problem, but I just thought maybe it's in my head. Maybe it's, maybe I'm just making it up. Maybe that, there's nothing really wrong with me and I don't want to take up NHS resources and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so fast forward to almost a year and a half later, and it's still not better. I've taken time off. I've given myself recovery time, and I'm just not getting better. So I go in to get it. So I go to my doctor and I explain, well, maybe I'm perimenopausal and I've got joint pain and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, maybe he goes, just go get an x-ray. So he sends me in to get an x-ray, and then I get the results back that I'm like, I've got osteoarthritis in my right knee. And of course, I'm not making it up, right? It's not in my head. It's an actual thing. And I thought, you know what, if I didn't have the DreamBuilder tools, that would have been a crushing blow. I really would have been. And so guess what I did? Because I'm a dream builder, because I'm somebody who believes that even with whatever diagnosis we've got a chance to do something amazing with our life. I went online and I said, okay, what can you do? What sports can you do with osteoarthritis in your knee? And what exercises can you do? And one of my daughter's friends is an osteopath, and I called her and she's like, well, here's the deal. It's going to hurt for a little while, but if you can get through the pain and you can get your strength up, you're going to come out stronger than you were before. And there's a lot of things you can do. So it was amazing. Like you get a diagnosis that's not ideal and something that you don't necessarily want, but because we have a way of thinking that's, well, where's the greater good in this? What am I going to learn from this? What am I going to take away from this? How am I going to, and actually at the end of the day, if I actually do what everyone's recommending I do, I'm going to end up being stronger than I've ever been, because I've got to get stronger in order to compensate for the challenges I've got. So there's probably a lot of good that's going to come out of this. And now I don't have a choice. If I want to walk for decades of my life. I want to continue to walk and be healthy. I've got to solve this. I can't wait on this anymore. So, I do think it's a way of thinking. And I really love that concept of why not. And it's really that concept of, okay, so I've got some sort of diagnosis. I've got some sort of obstacle in my way. Well, how could we still do it? And, propelling questions. I can't do this because I can't. Because if we just change that sentence and say, well, I could if, right? I can't
Yeah,
because, but I could if. What would have to be true for me to be able to do this thing? And that's a huge shift that comes out of the Dream Builder training. And anyway,
I
it,
think I think as well, when you get a diagnosis or where you get an obstacle, another way, it's almost like rock climbing, isn't it? It's something you can hang on to in order to work out which is the next thing you're going to grab onto. It's not necessarily, I mean, we'd be naive to think that it was just a very predictable path going up and all we have to do is follow those steps and we'll get there. No, it's rock climbing, something comes along, it could be a foothold, it could be a finger hold or something like that. And it just means that you keep moving forward and you bounce off it or, so it's not a disaster. And also, with the why not thing, I mean, what do we tell our children? They've got no experience, they've got no evidence of being good at anything, and they say, I want to be an XYZ. You don't go, what? You've got no experience, you can't do that. I mean, it's just remembering the child inside us that you can do anything, or you can be anything. Or, I mean, for me, I used to think that I had to be something impressive, and it doesn't matter anymore. I just think that actually the most impressive thing is to get by and be happy. And if you can, get by and be happy, then you've done really, really well. With all the obstacles and all the chains of resentment. And I think at the end of the day, if you achieve that, what a blessed life, it's great. So that's where I'm at. I'm not going to be prime minister, but, I'm going to have a job that I get paid. I'm going to feel good about what I do. And I've got the Dream Builder program that taught me all these tools to reframe things and just be a bit calmer and enjoy life, and love the connections you have. And that's where I'm at. And so
well,
thank
I
you.
have to say, anyone who's listening to this or watching this, I think you've achieved your goal. You're very impressive. Anyone who's come over the hurdles that you've come over and have the smile that you've got on your face right now. I want you guys to know, if you get a chance to watch the video, I want you to see Benita's face. She is radiating just this incredible sort of light of it all worked out, and she knows it's not over. She knows she's still climbing that wall and there's still going to be obstacles, but like she said, every obstacle gives us a chance to raise our level of awareness and say, okay, what am I going to learn from this? What am I going to take away from this? How am I going to use this to serve the greater good? And so in my view, Benita, you've achieved that wonderful gift of happiness, but also I think you're very impressive. I think anyone who's gone through what you've gone through and still has a smile on her face and is ready to take on the next thing is just a beautiful, beautiful thing. So thank you for coming on and sharing your story, giving us an update, a part 2, shall we say, as you've evolved into who you are, and like what you referenced were the 5 questions. So if you have a dream right now and you're thinking about, whether or not you should put your time, energy, effort, or money into it, here's the 5 questions. Question number 1, does it light me up? Question number 2, is it in alignment with my core values? Question number 3 is it going to require me to grow? Will I have to be uncomfortable in order to move through this? Because we know growth comes from being uncomfortable. It's what growing pains are all about. And then the 4th question is, do I need help from a higher power? And it's this concept of, if I can do everything, if I know how to do everything I need to know how to do, it's not really a dream, right? A dream requires a bit of faith in that sort of higher power, whatever you want to call it, God, the universe, life, because it's this idea that I don't breathe myself. I don't make my heart beat. I don't fill my lungs up with air. I don't pump the blood through my veins. There is something out there that's moving us. Even if we can't see it, it doesn't mean it's not out there. And it's that concept of, do I want to trust the inner voice that says this is what I'm destined to do, or these are the steps I need to take? Is it going to require help from a higher power? Do I need a coach? Do I need guidance? Do I need support? And Benita got all of that. And then the last question, as she said, is there good in it for others? Really important to ask ourselves that. Because, people underestimate that there is good in a lot of things for other people. If you're in a partnership with someone and people see that partnership and they're inspired by that partnership, there's good in that for others, right? So the last question is there good in it for others? So if you can answer yes to all 5 of those, then really it's not about whether or not you're worthy of the dream, but it's whether or not the dream is worthy of your time, energy, effort, and money. And for Benita, it was. And that's why she became a dream builder. And now we're excited to see where the next chapter of her life takes her. Well, thank you, Benita. Have a wonderful, keep us posted, and good luck with your job. Can't wait to hear how it goes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Joy. Thank you.